stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Ackerman, roll call.
Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mrs. Reed?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell? Here. Mr. Myers?
Here.
Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Dr. Krebs? Here.
All right. Do we have a motion on the agenda?
Moved. Support.
Moved by Mr. Trombley and supported by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion?
I do have two proposed amendments to the agenda. That one is for future action. I would like to add a new letter J, renewal of superintendent contract. Dr. Gray's contract runs from July 1 to June 30. Historically, we have extended the contract for an additional year upon the completion of the review process. The two new board members may not recall, before the end of last year, we voted to forego this year's superintendent review process because by statute we are allowed to forego the review if there's been 3 consecutive highly effective ratings, which is what Dr. Gray attained. So we did not engage in the superintendent review process, but nonetheless, I would like to add the renewal of the contract for an additional year, which basically would extend his existing contract for one additional year through June 30, 2024. So that's what we would have for action at the next meeting. So
Okay.
that would be my amendment. The second amendment is to add a new B in the closed session, to add a closed session for the level 3 grievance information that's exempt from disclosure under federal law as a follow-up to our closed session last time. And so then what is existing B in the agenda, the approval of the closed minutes for May 28, 2019 would be the new C. So I would propose those two amendments.
Is there any discussion on those proposals? I do have one question. Dr. Gray, for the additional item for the closed session, is there an issue with us adding that as far as the grievance process goes?
Not if we're talking about FERPA protected.
Okay. And I also had one item I wanted to suggest for the closed session. We've got item A, security planning. I would propose we push that off to the next meeting. So remove that from the schedule and leave us with item A on the grievance and item B on the approval of closed minutes, if we agree with all of the
What would be
amendments.
the reasoning of that? Because our expert isn't here?
Correct.
I'm good with that.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda with the amendments proposed by Mr. Myers and myself? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. All right, Dr. Gray?
Yeah, recognition tonight, we have two separate. First, Brighton High School National Honor Society Veterans Committee. We have the two student leaders and some of our honored guests here tonight. So I'd like to call forward Nate Lee and Leah Police so they can talk a little bit about what we've done this year and why we're here tonight. So Nate and Leah. That's perfect.
So this year we were head of the NHS committee for Veteran and Military Appreciation. So we had the honor of honoring veterans and military members. We had the school make cards for veterans and then we went and delivered them to the
VA hospital.
Yeah, VA hospital in Ann Arbor. So that was really nice to see the whole school come and write thank you cards to them for Veterans Day. And then our big event was February, the Winterfest basketball game. Actually, at halftime, we did a whole thing honoring the veterans, and they got to come down and say their names and just said thank you to them and all they do for our country. So
We raised money for a charity called Homes for Our Troops. I think we raised like $500
yeah,
some
almost $500 that we
so.
sent to them. They actually modified a home a couple years ago
we're working to create sort of a ongoing project to honor Brighton High School graduates that are going into the military. And so we've sent out like surveys to people who are going into the military to see, get some more info on them. And what we plan on doing is making like a binder and having each class having pictures of all the students going into the military. And so we'll hand that down to next year's Veterans Appreciation Committee and just keep it going for years to come.
I think we have about 8 classmates this year that are going into the military or ROTC programs, so it's really awesome. We want to better recognize them too as they're leaving high school.
Leah and Nate, I just want to, from the school district, thank both of you. You do this on your own time. You don't get anything for it other than the appreciation of the project itself. So I know it's a ton of work. I know that the people that have come into the game and the different projects have really appreciated it. And it's made me very proud as the superintendent to watch you guys do this. So I just want to thank you.
We'd like to present some plaques to these two fine people. I think you might want to show them that large one. We started this program last year, and the original 2 are on that. And of course, he's added these 2 fine people. The following year, we will continue to keep adding each name.
In the hallway there, this display.
These are individual plaques that we're going to present to the kids to take home, that they belong to them. Presented to for your unfaithful dedication to recognizing American veterans for sharing the cost of freedom post-1775. AMVETS. Thank you. You want to present yours? This pretty young lady. Miss Leah, please.
Thank you very much for all that you've done, both. You've done a magnificent job. Very, very, very nice. Can't thank you enough for.
Nate, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job.
These are a challenge point.
Our second recognition tonight is our Spring Shining Stars. They're not all here tonight because we have a couple banquets going on, but Mr. Thompson will come up and talk a little bit about our spring season.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. As a good friend of mine, and actually my boss is prone to say, at the end of the school year, that's a wrap. And this is a wrap for us for our Bulldog Spring Athletics season. We have several programs that we're going to discuss here this evening and recognize. We are going to push our Girls Lacrosse program to our next Board of Education meeting. They have their banquet this evening, so a group of young ladies that competed in the state finals on Saturday will come visit us at the next Board of Education meeting. But we're going to start with boys golf. Our boys golf program is coached by James Doolin, who's here this evening, and he's got one of his golfers with us, so if they could come on up, that'd be much appreciated. So this is a game that I have a ton of respect for and not much skill at, so that's why my respect level is so high. I could never hope to shoot with this young man that is out there on the links. But anyways, Davis Cott is a sophomore at Brighton High School, and he represented us at the state finals just this past weekend and finished 6th in the state of Michigan as a sophomore. He also was at our league tournament. He was the KLA medalist. So just a phenomenal young man and also a phenomenal golfer in his spare time. He plays a little hockey too. So I hope maybe someday I can maybe trick him into putting on the black and orange for that as well. But out on the golf course, not only does he shoot the dickens out of that little white ball, but in the words of his coach, just an outstanding representation of Brighton area schools in our community of Brighton. So, Davis T-Bone Cobb, congratulations, great job. We're going to switch from golf to track and field, and we're going to start with the girls. I see we've got a couple of our young ladies from our track and field program with us, so if they want to come forward, that'd be great.
Congratulations.
So our girls track and field program, coached by Nate Grabowski, finished second in the KLA West and also second at the MHSA regionals, and qualified by a ton of individuals to go on and compete at the state finals. So our honor roll for girls track and field includes in the 100-meter dash, Felicity Norris, one of our seniors. She was in 19th place in the 100 meters. The 200-meter dash, Brooke Gray, a sophomore, also qualified. Did not compete because she's in a number of other events. In the 400-meter dash, Morgan Wagner, freshman, ended up in 19th place. Bryce Kalka, a sophomore, who also does double duty and plays on our varsity girls soccer team, qualified and ended up in 17th place. In the 800-meter run, Maddie Brown, one of our seniors, qualified in the 800 meters and finished 8th. In the 300-meter hurdles, we had Kennedy Smith, one of our seniors, took 23rd. In our 4x1 meter relay, we had Bryce Kalka, Felicity Norris, Kennedy Smith, and Morgan Wagner. That relay did not run at states, though they did qualify. And the same lineup of girls with one change also qualified in the 4x2. That was Brooke Gray, a sophomore, Felicity Norris again, Kennedy Smith, a senior, and Morgan Wagner, a freshman. The 4x200 ended up 13th at the state finals. Our 4x4 relay finished in 14th place. And in the 4x4, we were represented by Kennedy Smith, Morgan Wagner, Julian Lidler, and Bryce Kalka. Our last relay that qualified for state finished in 15th place was 4x8. And that was, we were represented in the 4x8 by Hannah Chung, Katie Carruthers, Morgan Crompton, and Maddie Brown. So just another outstanding campaign by our women's track and field program. So congratulations. Please tell your teammates the same. We appreciate all the effort and hard work, and also representing us with class. So great season. So the last program we're going to speak about is boys track and field, and we have some of our boys track and field members here, so they could come on up. I also passed a couple on the way over here who were actually running the roads and fighting as well, so they work tirelessly. I will tell you, this program, you know, from the first day that I showed up in Brighton a long, long time ago, this program has come a long, long way. And this year's performances out there, both in track and field, marked some history for Brighton. Boys track and field is coached by Oka Hill, who's moving into retirement. We're going to try and trick him and keep him around in some capacity a little bit longer. But I can remember the days where we didn't win a dual meet and the numbers were low, and you know, good kids and good coaches, and we were working hard. But you know, this group has set the bar high. So Coach Hill himself last year was Regional Coach of the Year. Again, he was named Regional Coach of the Year. This year's group of young men were the KLA champions, and for the first time in school history, MHSA regional champions. So outstanding group of young men that went and brought home a regional championship to Brighton for the first time in school history, and then moved on to qualify a number of events at state. So here's our regional team and how we ended up as well with the people that competed at states. We had an 11th grader, Dan Campbell, on that team. Brendan Edoff, also he was a junior. He competed in the 4x2, finished 10th in the 4x400, and finished 4th. Dylan Gear was a member of our regional team. Nolan Hoffman, a senior, was a member of our regional team. Matt Johns, a junior, competed in the 4x8 at states, finishing 5th. Also in the 800 meter, finishing 10th, and in the 4x4, finishing 4th. Will Johns, his older brother, a senior, competed in the 4x200 meter, finishing 10th, and the 4x400, finishing 4th. Jacob Lucas was a member of this regional winning team. Nolan McGann, a senior, competed at states in the 4x800, finishing 5th, in the 1600 meter, finishing 18th, in the 3200 meter, finishing 18th. John Monroe was a member of this regional championship team, one of our seniors. Josh Pierce, a junior. Jacob Asork, a senior. Evan Ross, a junior. Chris Sequin, one of our seniors who will be leaving us, competed in the 4x2, finishing 10th. Scott Spanster, a junior, who will be back for one more year and expect more good things from him. Competed in the 4x800, finishing 5th, and the 4x2, finishing 10th. In the 400 meter, finishing 11th, and the 4x400 relay, finishing 4th. Another junior returning for us next year, Jack Spammer, in the 4x800, finishing 5th, and the 1600 meter, finishing 9th, and in the 3200 meter, finishing 11th. Zach Stewart, another junior who will be returning in the 1600 meter, 22nd, and the 3200 meter, 12th. Parker Vidovic was one of our freshmen who was also a member of this regional championship team. And Patrick Whitten, our senior pole vaulter, finished 34th in the state of Michigan at the state finals. But just a great group of young men that have come together truly as a team and have brought people along with them. And to be able to get to this point, all I can say is let's not make this the first and only time in Brighton history. Let's keep at it and bring more people with you and keep up the great work. Congratulations.
We've got a long list, but I don't know who these guys are.
We can do that. We'll touch on a couple other things here real quick. Certainly on behalf of all of our student athletes. Thank you to the Board of Education, our faculty, staff, and community for all their support. Interesting note, participation for spring sports is always large. Way up this year. We had 501 student athletes competing, so a fourth of the student body at Brighton High School. So that's really great to see. And out of those 501 kids, 74.7% had a 3.0 GPA or better. So getting it done not only on the fields of play, but also in the classroom. So we're really proud of all of our student athletes, and we look forward to getting started in August as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay. That will take us to call to the public. If anyone would like to address the board, we welcome you to step up to the podium. And we'd ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you could state your name and your address when you come to the podium, we'd appreciate it. All right. Seeing none, that will take us into the superintendent's report. Dr. Gray?
You guys don't have to stay. Just
We appreciate it if you want to join us, but we're not at
the sun is finally out, so thank you. We have nothing under superintendent.
Okay. to for action then. First item, regular meeting, the approval of the regular meeting minutes from May 28th, 2019. Is there a motion? Moved by Ms. Mitchell, supported by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion?
I just have a couple of changes. One is on page 10 of the packet. It's the subcommittee DBA level 3 grievance hearing. I think we need to add the word, the second line under the motion, where it says exempt under federal law, and there's a reference to MCL. The MCL is the state statute, so it should say exempt under federal law and. So just add the word and into the sentence.
Exempt under,
Federal law and then and MCL.
Should we remove the parenthetical around the MCL then?
I don't think we need the parenthetical then around the MCL site. Sorry. And then the other correction I had was the page 12, where there was the motion to enter a closed session. It's item Roman numeral 12. With regard to discussing negotiation strategies connected with BASA, I think we should add the word and, BEA, and then there wouldn't be anything after that referencing and BESPA. So it should be BASA and BEA bargaining units.
Any other discussion? Okay.
you know what, there was a correction under call to the public, add an A for Brenda Hurley, one of the teachers.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes with the noted corrections?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, and one abstention. So that is approved 501. Right, did I get my numbers right? Okay. Item B, NHSAA resolution.
We recommend that you approve the resolution for us to participate in the Michigan High School Athletic Association. This is an annual resolution that we need to put in front of us.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Myers, support by Ms. Krebs, Dr. Krebs. All right, any discussion?
Just annual.
Every year.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. And that takes us to the elementary handbook revisions.
In front of you have our elementary handbook revisions that will be going into our handbooks if you approve them this evening. I received no further questions or comments related to them, so we recommend them as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Stahl, support by Mr. Trombley. Any further discussion?
This is for all elementary schools.
All four.
It's all
Yes.
four.
Yep, we keep it consistent handbook.
And Dr. Gray, is there anything that we're implementing in order to bring us up to these new standards, or is this work, does this reflect work that we've already done?
It does.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed? And that passes 6-0. Item D, VESPA tentative agreement.
We would recommend, you've had a couple weeks to look at the VESPA tentative agreement for financials for the 2019-20 school year. Again, a lot of kudos out to Mr. Fleck and Ms. Francis, who we bargained with, as well as Lori Hudson, the UNICEF director. And it was nice to get this contract done, and we look forward to the 2019-20 school year.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell, supported by Mr. Stahl. Do we have any other discussion? I just want to thank everybody that participated in the bargaining here. It's always great to know that we have a good team representing all parties, and that we can work well together and reach a good conclusion for everyone. those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes 6-0. All right. That will take us into for future action. Item A, the old policies that revise bylaws, volume 33, number 2.
Yep, so we'll have you have a couple weeks to screen through these. The policy committee has worked their way through this. It's another riveting night of policy work, so we are bringing this as a recommendation out of that committee to you. I would suggest if you're thumbing through this, a lot of them are replications of the different levels from 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, all the way through. Most of them are primarily legislative language changes, but if you should have questions over the next couple of weeks, you can call myself, or if you want a board member's opinion, Ms. Reed and Dr. Krebs and Ms. Mitchell are on that committee as well. So.
I just wanted to offer up, I know that you guys probably will approve that stuff, but if you need help, just need to say, thumbs up.
We finally have a
Thank
system.
you.
Pretty
We do.
good system.
Sounds like it's really good.
It's going pretty well.
Yeah, well, and we do appreciate that. We know how much work is involved. So, pretty much.
All right. Any other questions before we move on to the next one? Okay. Item B, school lunch program increase.
We go out and screen the market each year and screen our comparables and our county levels, and we will be recommending a 25-cent increase to lunch meal prices for next year. As we do a comparative market analysis, this still keeps us in the bottom third in terms of cost to our constituents. But it's time to make a little tweak to it as we keeps us from down the road having to make a large tweak. So.
Has there been any problem with maintaining the solvency of the school lunch program?
No, there hasn't been. So one of my questions was, they talked about a paid meal fresh increase by 13 cents based on some of the calculations for this year, and it was 3 cents the previous, was it 13 and 3?
Well, it was recommended that we increase the lunch rate by 3 cents, but we didn't because that was so small. So we're required to keep our prices in line with this calculation that they put out there, because what they're trying to prevent is that the free and reduced lunch students end up paying for everybody's lunch. So we are obligated to keep it within the range that they recommend, but our average price for our free and reduced lunch was $3, but our average cost was $2.97. So last year we should have increased it by 3 cents, but we didn't. And then this year they are estimating that it's going to be 10 cents, so it should be 13, but rather than nickel and dime our parents to death, we haven't increased our lunch prices, and I think we've done it once in the 10 years that I've been here. So now it's time for a small tweak.
So then this is 25 cents in several years, it's not just an every other.
That's right.
2-year kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's just, thank you.
And so what's the ramification if you don't raise it and you don't, we apparently got the waiver last year on the 3 cents, and so if we don't raise it, what?
Right, so we need to apply for a waiver, and we have to produce documents to the Michigan Department of Education, who monitors our food service department very stringently, and we also get audited by our financial auditors in this program as well, because it's federal dollars.
Right.
And so, there was no way that we could not do this without a waiver.
And you think it would be too difficult to get a waiver for 13 cents, or are you just concerned about
I don't think
the
that
jump later?
we keep asking and asking, right? So pretty soon, if you don't do small incremental tweaks, you get so far out of whack that we have to nail the parents. So it's kind of a balancing act between what we're required to do at the state level and what makes sense at our local level.
Is there any kind of forecasting in terms of the future, like this will hold off for a few years? By increasing this a quarter now, we won't be increasing for several years.
Since I've been here, we've only increased it once, so I would think that this, it's based on food costs, hard to tell, but I think that it would probably hold for a while.
Okay. Let's move on to item C, the amended budget for 2018-19.
Yes, So you have in your board packet the amended budget for your review. We have a couple weeks before we approve it, but I just wanted to point out, kind of the bottom line, like drum roll please. The bottom of page 3, under the blue column 1819 final amended, we are projecting that our fund balance will end the year at $6.1 million, which will be an addition of $1.1 million into our fund balance, which is along the lines of what we had projected with our second amended budget. Just a small couple $100,000 more we're planning on putting in our fund equity than what we had originally budgeted under our amended budget. And that's really the big news for the general fund. So you have a couple weeks to look at that. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
I just want to, one thing, like, if you'd have told me 10 years ago that we'd be presenting us over a $6 million fund equity, I'd said you're crazy. Our first year, we were 15 million in deficit. And we were able to cut 7 million, get it to 8, and then it took, a little while to get the 8 gone, the legacy debt, because we were back to 0. But we were kind of reflecting on it the other day when we were putting together the amended budget, because you think about, the variance in terms of our amended budget to our final budget. It would be like if you set a personal budget in your household and we're off by a quarter at the end of the year. So a lot of credit goes to not only her department, but the principals, the directors, everybody following the plan, not overspending, being smart about what they do, but not leaving any of our students for want. So to have 6.1 million, largest amount of fund equity we've ever had in the history of the school system. When she gets to the projected budget, it looks like we'll clear 7 next year, which is getting us dangerously close to that 10%, although I feel like we're chasing an aberration because we keep raising more revenue. So it's a great problem to have. But again, if you'd have told me 10 years ago that in 9 budget cycles, we'd make a $21 million swing in fund equity, I'd said you were crazy. And that's almost a $2 million a year swing in fund equity in really, really challenging financial times. So I'm really proud of the organization.
So even though the percent isn't changing as much, the actual amount is increasing?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So again, we've charted our history of fund equity, and percentage-wise, there might have been one year that was close or maybe a touch higher, but remember, it was based on a budget that wasn't gaining any revenue. It was actually in a couple of years where revenue declined, but we still had money in the bank. That's why it was 8% or something along those lines, which is now where we're at 8%. So as we look at next year and we get over 7, and if you were to tell me 10 years ago we'd have over an $80 million budget as we were free falling into the 40s, I would say you're crazy too. So those are 2 good indicators as we move forward.
So if you didn't believe that, why'd you take the job?
I believed in us.
Oh, there you go.
I just didn't believe. I'll tell you, to be honest with you, what really hurt was everything kind of came together negative at once. We had the $470 cut. We were bleeding, 200, 250 kids.
Didn't go any other way but up.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. A lot of good people doing a lot of good things. Pretty happy.
Yeah, no, it's really a testament to the hard work and commitment by, Dr. Gray, you, Dr. Gistinger, and administration staff. It's really a remarkable feat. You're right. And no one would have ever believed that where we were then and projected to where we are now could have ever been accomplished. And it's a real testament to how you've led this district, and it really portends for great things in the future for the district as well.
It really does.
Yeah.
Really does.
Yep. The dedication to that level of responsibility too, that gets us so close to, so few differences between what we budgeted for and what it actually is truly impressive. There are a lot of businesses that would.
Yeah. Think about the actual accounting standards are 2% or more.
Yeah.
So we could be several million off and be well within the governmental accounting standards. Several million, and we're 100,000 less. It's again, I give a lot of credit too, not only to her department and her oversight of, but the principals and directors do a really nice job with managing their budgets and being realistic about their budgets.
Yeah.
And it isn't like we haven't added a bunch. You know, we've added a ton of people and equipment, and, you know, we've hit our stride in terms of really getting everybody what they need. And I think you're seeing the benefits from it, you know, the super successful sports teams and academic teams and all those particular test scores. And it's, I don't know, I think when you invest, those things happen. It's kind of fun to watch, really.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's go through our projected budget from 18-20.
Okay, so the big news in the projected budget, again, if you go to the bottom of page 3, under the original budget column, we are projecting to put another approximately $1 million into our fund balance at the end of 1920. And also, too, this is an unusual situation in that we don't have a settled state aid fund in the state budget. This, it's been a long time since that's happened. So essentially, we've had some hints about what we think the budget might be, because the governor and the Senate's budget has been out for a while. The House budget just came out, I think, a couple of days ago. So just for a point of reference, we increased our per pupil foundation allowance by about $150. We wanted to use a little bit of a conservative number just in case that number was going to turn out to be something else. All estimates are showing that we're going to probably get closer to 175, 185-ish, depending on where the budget ends up. So that'll add a couple, $300,000 to our budget for next year. So that's kind of the big idea on the revenue side. And then I think I've spoken to the board before about ASB 84 and how we've had to consolidate our student activity accounts. They've either had to get off of our books or get into a special revenue fund or become a part of the general fund. So the trick with the projected budget is trying to figure out how much activity is run through those accounts to accurately reflect those in the special revenue general fund budget, which that's what a budget is. It's a living document. It's an estimate of what we think is going to happen. And then that's why we amend it a couple of times a year, is because then we can get a better feel for what is happening. So that's, again, a little bit of a wild card in the projected budget, because we don't have any history of what is happening in those accounts. But I wanted to turn your attention to page 10 in your budget book. And this is the brand new special revenue fund that was created to capture all of the non-academic student-related activities that are occurring in our district. And so we have about $1.1 million of money that we keep on our books that are trust and agency accounts. We're just a fiduciary agent of that. Some of that has gone away in that we've cut checks to respective organizations that gave us that money. But this is an estimate of how much revenue we think is going to be run through the special revenue account. And again, it's an estimate because we don't have any history of this. So I budgeted about $1,051,000 of revenue and about $806,873. So that leftover money, that $244,238, essentially the majority of that is seed money for our play in our musical every year. So they have on their books like 2 years worth of revenue and 1 year worth of expense. And so when we roll that money forward, we already have the revenue sitting there, and then they'll also collect ticket fees as the season progresses, but then they'll also have a year of expenses to keep the musical and the play going. So, who lays claim to that $244,238? We'll have to keep a side ledger to determine how much money is left over. But I wanted to point that out because you'll see it as a board, you'll see their revenue start coming in and their expenditures will be hitting our books. So just something unique with that special revenue fund. And then we do have a couple loose ends with implementation of GSB 84, but our auditors are going to be here next week to do some preliminary field work, and we'll get our remaining 2 questions answered about how they want us to handle certain aspects of our special revenue fund. So we have a new fund. It's under our auspices now. It's the new special revenue fund.
A couple other highlights for, I'm sorry, you have a question.
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions about the special revenue fund. So for all of the PTOs and the other organizations that were in those trust and agency accounts, is everybody moving to this, or is only a select group?
So a lot of the PTOs have already been off of our books. They've been off our books for a number of years. And that was an initiative that started, I want to say maybe 15 years ago, where they said, get the PTOs off the district's oversight. And we did a really good job of that in this district. And then when I got here, we just kind of had to tweak it a little bit. We met with the parent advisory committee to remind them that they should not be using our employee identification number at their bank. That was the big key. That was to determine if they were under our auspices or not. And just last year, I sent out a bank confirmation to every single bank in Brighton just to check to see if there were any accounts that were open that were using our employee identification number, and it came back 0. So I think we're in good shape, making sure that we're the only ones using our number, and everybody else has their own. So what happened is that if it was academic related, it ends up in the general fund, or if it was general fund related activity, a lot of that activity is going to be whatever's left in those accounts at June 30th, they'll be journal entered into the general fund starting July 1. If it's non-academic, it's going to end up in the special revenue fund. And then everybody else either falls away, or there's a small handful of student activity accounts that will be retained in those 6-2 accounts, but they have no district oversight and no district employee that manages those funds. And that's the critical factor to determine if it's a trust and agency account or if it goes into the general fund or the special revenue fund, is if the district truly has oversight of, an employee of the district has oversight of those dollars.
We've spent a ton of time with our PTOs, our principals, anybody who has these accounts, working them through the SBA before. So we've probably spent the last 6 months on this, making sure that we're good to go for May.
So to be clear, all these funds in this account are non-appropriated funds. So for all intents and purposes, this is a reporting of those monies.
You are now, with page 10, appropriating those funds with the approval of this budget. So they have now been pulled out of that area where the district has no oversight into this area where the district has all of the oversight, and they're subject to the same rules that apply to district funds as far as expenditures.
How are these monies raised?
How are they what?
How are they raised? How are these monies?
Raised?
It depends.
It depends.
There's a million different ways that they do.
So volunteer car wash would not become under our
It depends.
It depends.
It depends. I mean, that's the hard part for people
that's the hard
to understand
part.
is, if, let's say, let's do the IWIL right now for an example.
Right.
So if they run an event, they're their own 501c3, right?
Right.
So they would raise it, it would go into their account, they're separate from the school system, they manage that money. When we do Pink Week or Senior Survivor, we have to come up with different ways to manage that particular money so it stays in that organization. But we can't write a check to anybody with those dollars. So there's different ways we have to go about doing it. That's what we've spent the last 6 months with all the principals. It's a big change.
It's huge. It's probably one of the 2 most significant changes that I've seen in how we do business from a school finance perspective in my entire career.
And so for athletic funds, so if a team, like the ski team, they say, okay, we want every athlete, we want to contribute $300, and the check is written to Brighton Athletics, and it's deposited and earmarked for the ski team. Those are the funds that go into this account?
So every athletic activity has their own revenue and expenditure practically in the general fund. If they don't, we would make them their own revenue and expenditure line items so we can track that. Here's one of the sticky questions that we have to still settle with our auditors, in that is it okay for us to purchase like food when students are traveling for athletic events?
So you go up to the UP for a ski trip, right? Or a hockey team goes up there. They're kind of captured up there. So is it a school expense or not?
So food is the big question mark.
So those funds, so an example that I gave, those funds wouldn't go in this account. That would be in the general fund, and then the coach would be have responsibility for.
That's right.
That's right.
Accounting for the revenue and expenditures.
Right.
So other than the musical and the play, what goes into the special revenue fund? What types of things?
Yearbook, school store. We have a little child care program at the high school, Pooh's Corner, that's in there. So anything that's not spot on academics, but also too, do they have a way to raise their own revenue? The school store has its own revenue, the child care has its own revenue, those types of things are in there.
Right. What about things like our, robotics teams? Are those
Robotics?
academic or are they not?
Robotics, actually, we get state revenue for that, that's in the general fund called First Robotics. So they are in the general fund, they have a group of accounts, and then the robotics team has an internal account that is managed by Jim Alexander, who is not a school district employee, so they were able to retain their trusted agency or student activity or fiduciary activity status.
So Band Boosters is a separate organization, but I know that in the past, they were running funds through the school, like they could parents could pay on Parent Connect, and is this no longer an option?
Right, so we're trying to figure out a way that we can run registration without actually collecting their revenue. Like, we're trying to make this as easy as possible on everybody. So the problem is when you register online, if the money hits our bank account, I don't know how it's gonna get out of it without us actually doing an ACH or writing a check, right? So we're trying to figure out a way where we can actually put the link there for the band boosters so they can click on the link and then just contribute to the band boosters. Or on the back side of it, if we can have separate bank accounts so that even though we collect it, it never touches our bank account. That's a big
Is
deal.
that still being figured? Trying to figure
Yes,
it out?
yeah.
Will we buy new blinds out of these accounts?
Yeah.
Shade, we'll do shade.
So do you anticipate a athletic boosters club now to be able to put money through?
That's an option. That's an option. Because that would be a separate 501c3.
Right. Okay.
Some of the other highlights of the budget, additional counselor at the elementary level, Sharon Irvine, obviously, K-12, career coordinator, counselor throughout the district, 4 buses, maintenance, box trucks, vans. Yeah, we're in good shape with the replacement of all those pieces. We feel very comfortable with it. We budgeted at 322 BEA members or teachers. Again, that's a good number for us. We sit at about 317 today. We know we're going to have to add a couple of sections of kindergarten. We're at 450 today, so that's a good number for us too. And so we're feeling pretty good about the projected. Again, we budgeted 150. We think it'll probably end up at 180. We were a little leery originally of the governor and Senate's budget, which was 270-ish. It just seemed high, so we kind of chose the conservative. I'm glad we did. We were paying pretty close attention to the May revenue consensus, which came in a little lower than what they predicted earlier. So I think we're in good shape. We also budgeted flat enrollment, which is good for us. We might have an uptick in, we know we'll have an uptick in shared services, but again, there's a percentage there.
So when it actually comes in higher, or does that go then?
It depends on if we have to add more teachers, if we have to do that. Again, we've been doing it long enough now that we kind of know, where the budget's going to move on us, and that's why we can come so close to it.
So that gives you some flexibility.
Yeah, some flexibility. We might have to add a position here, a parapro here, and running back 10 years ago, 9 years ago, we had to run so razor thin that any change in it really would dramatically impact our amendment and some of our results. So I think we have a very solid budget.
So if you look at page 1 in the projected budget book, that's essentially a snapshot of every single fund in the district. So in case you're wondering what the total activity is of the entire district, the general fund is that very first column, and you can see most of the activity is in the general fund. I tell my students that the general fund is the mother of all funds, because look, all the other funds, there's like a revenue line and an expenditure line in there. But so then there's the special revenue funds now is the food service, our new student activity account, and our community education account. They were always under special revenue. The difference is that new student activity account. And then the debt service fund is just servicing the debt of our current district. And I think at the end of 1920, the only debt that's left to pay is all the debt that we all remember, because we were here. 2012, 2013, and 2015 bond issue, that $89 million. It's the only debt left on the books. There has been debt on our books since 1976 because it was refunded and refunded and refunded. So all of the cobwebs have been blown off of the debt schedule. And then that capital projects fund is the operating transfer from the general fund, as well as the dollar per seat collection at the BCPA. So that fund balance of $324,000 is split between those two initiatives. If our bond issue is successful in November, another capital projects fund will jump up in this category next to this one, and it will be our, I guess it'll be our 2019 bond issue. It might be 20 depending on when we sell it, but we'll have another capital projects fund.
Again, I think the most important part of that whole spiel there was we only have debt left that we can remember. It's very rare in a school system because typically you bond and refinance and bond and refinance and bond and refinance. That's also the reason, plus increased house prices, why as we move forward, why we could generate over $350 million with zero increase. The extension of the $59 million of 2 years is a pretty good scenario for the school system financially long term. And if you ran out of stuff to do, you could probably continue to whittle that down. So about as good a financial position as you could be in, which is great.
I think that's an understatement.
Yeah.
We look like every other district in the state now. It's taken a long time to get there, but we're starting to blend in with everybody else.
All right. Any other discussion on the budget for tonight at least? Okay. Let's move on to item E, certified staff resignation.
Yeah, we recommended in a couple weeks you accept the resignation of Elizabeth Schmidt. She had 1 year of service to the district, is actually taking the position closer to home.
Any discussion? Okay. Item F, VHS administrator hire.
After a thorough search, the high school, we are recommending Matt Evans to fill the vacancy of Mr. Vecchione's position at Brighton High School. Matt was actually a top 2 finalist in both the Scranton and the high school position, so 2 totally separate groups interviewing him, and he came out in the top seed on both of them, not top seed, but in the top 2 on both of those. So Matt's been with us several years. Matt's a graduate of Brighton High School, and also coaches on our baseball team and does a myriad of things within the school system. Started as a teacher here at the Bridge. His wife teaches right now at the Bridge, and he's been at the high school as a math instructor now for quite some time. So we're really excited to have him. He knows this place inside and out, and I think he's going to hit the ground running to start to try to fill those big shoes in Mr. Vecchione. And then at Scranton, we had another extensive interview process. Patrick Borg was the #1 recommendation to Liz, Maria, and myself, and we interviewed him and Matt, obviously, for the Scranton job. Patrick comes to us from Huron Valley Schools, has a wealth of experience in administration and even at the middle school level. One of my favorite pieces is I think he's going to be a great complement to Jennifer Hiller. You know, it's always hard when you go into an interview because you'd love to hire people just like you because it feels good, but I think the committee and Jennifer did an unbelievable job picking the strengths of Patrick that fill some of the areas you know, that they need there at Scranton as well. I know he's a big culture guy, and you know, he's going to really be involved with the kids in that. So we made a lot of calls to Huron Valley. They had nothing but praise. Liz actually worked with them at Huron Valley Schools back in the day. So we're really excited to get both Matt and Patrick.
There's no slacker.
No.
He's a lot of middle
Does he
school.
have time to go home at night?
None of us do.
did. I was really impressed with the things Dr. King on Dearborn. I liked that. I'll go to his defense this time. I missed Jennifer's. I didn't realize that was when I saw the note.
Yeah, Jennifer will be our lead at Scranton, and Patrick will be assisting her. I think it's going to be a great partnership. Looking forward to watching it.
All right, item H, the BE tentative agreement.
Yeah, very pleased to announce as well that we have a tentative agreement with the Brighton Education Association. The particulars are there in that particular page. Again, 1.7 on scale, 2.3 in relation to professional development are the highlights of that one. I think the other big highlight that we talked a great deal at the table about was we're lowering class size at Maltby. Maltby, we're pushing down to 31 to 1. That's a good number for us. We used to have our 4th grade there, so to have our 5th and 6th grade now at 31 to 1, I think is going to be really a win. I think that building's really going to see that as a real positive. Thank you as always to Mr. Trombley for his work with BEA and Best Buy and the BASA group. And I'm really pleased we're done. I'm really pleased we were able to set the first day of school, and I'm really pleased that both sides walked away with good feelings about the contract. And it's a 3-year contract in relation to language, and then we'll have a wage opener each year. That seemed to, even though it's a lot of work every year, I think it's allowed us to really ebb and flow with the financial market as it is, and continue to make our bottom line more and more strong.
So, and I just have a clarification for the language when they're talking about overloads for students 34 and 35.
We pay for those.
Pay for those, and then not to exceed 175. They're saying total, so that would essentially mean it would include
5 hours out of the
teacher.
day. Yeah.
So they'd rather have you get a new teacher than paying.
That's correct. Yeah, that language has been in there a long time. We also have an imbalance language, which I think is really important. We went to that several years ago. You and I, during 3rd hour, teach the exact same class. Our classes cannot vary by more than 2 students. So if you're a way better teacher than I am, you don't get dumped on because you're better than I am. That forces us to address all issues. So.
Is that more an issue in elementaries?
No, the imbalance language, we staff elementary is pretty darn consistent. It's more of an issue at the secondary level. Like if we were both a AP or a U.S. history teacher, and again, maybe you were more popular or better at it than I have to address my deficiencies so that we're even, push myself. So we worked really hard on that. So again, thank you to Matt Dufon and Barry and Margaret and Melissa, Jen, again, Lori Hudson, and everybody else. It's hard. Bargaining's hard, but we work real hard to, in the end, do what's right for kids in the district and our employees. I'm just really happy that we have a TA. It's hard at the end of a contract because you're addressing a bunch of language. So we have our last cleanup session this Wednesday. We only have a couple more things just to tweak in terms of the contract, and then I'll send that full red line, green line version of it to you, and you can look at that before we vote for action at the end of June. BASA?
Yes, please.
Yes, so last group, again, very happy. It follows right in line with everybody else, the 2 and 2, and again, great group of administrators working here. And a group of 2 new people that we've argued with this year, Jeff Bean and Dan Eaton, who are now the leaders of the BASA organization. And again, it came to the table open-minded, that everybody cares about the district, and we work really hard to make sure everybody gets compensated. But again, we maintain our percentages and fairness. So again, thank you to them, and we'll recommend that one in a couple weeks, and then we should be good for the summer.
All right.
Just along those same lines, I'm not sure there's too many other districts out there that have been able to do what we've been able to do, because this is about the fourth or fifth bargaining year that I've been through, not including wage openers. But my point being is, I think if you look across the districts in Michigan, there's not a lot of consistent raises going on. throughout the rest of the districts. And I think the percentages that we're offering and that they're accepting, I think they're fair, and I think that represents, you know, our, as a board, we appreciate what our teachers and administrators and support staff are doing. And I think that shows through. And again, when you go and look at the averages across the state, I think you'll see that as well. So, again, it just shows that, you know, I think our commitment and their commitment to continue to work here.
Yeah, well, and kind of following up on what was discussed earlier, I mean, I would say that it's even more rare to have a district that is consistently agreeing to the raises on scale to boot, as we've done the last few years, and at the same time being able to contribute to the general fund equity that we're building up, you know, at the same time. I mean, that really, I think, is takes the uniqueness of that scenario to a whole new level, and just further illustrates how impressive you know, from a budgeting standpoint and from you know, an investment in you know, our people, and obviously the results are there across the board on just about any metric. You know, just you know, hitting on all cylinders, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Bill's assessment of that.
Yeah, that's definitely a testament to the wonderful leadership we have from all parties involved in the bargaining, and to everyone's commitment to making sure that the district continues to improve and still maintains fiscal responsibility, because it benefits all of us for us to continue to move forward and not go backwards from a financial standpoint. All right, item J, renewal of the superintendent's contract.
So that was,
Mr. Myers?
yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to add beyond what I stated earlier. I wanted this added to for future action. We are at the end of the current year, Dr. Gray's current contract year, and even though we did not do the superintendent review because of the fact that we agreed to forego that because of the 3 years of highly effective rating, that we still should revisit the renewal of the contract and extend it for an additional year as we have historically done. So,
I'd like to recommend, perhaps during this review, the discussion of a raise. Dr. Gray. If you look at our comparables, he sits, if you look at the immediate comparables, he probably sits somewhere in the middle. And if you look outside of our districts.
This is our county.
Pardon?
In our county.
Yes. If you look outside of those comparables, you'll find schools that are much smaller, doing much less for much more money. And a lot of times it has to do with the county we're in. I like to look at it as the individual and what they accomplish for us. So if I can make that recommendation, perhaps that could be added to for discussion.
Okay, that will take us to board committee reports and Board of Education bulletins. Anybody have anything?
Facilities committee, Dr. Gray, you're going somewhere tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be at Treasury tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., and we'll be presenting our potential bond document to them. We went through it at our committee meeting last week, I think it was last week, and then it was submitted to Troon because it has to be certified by our attorneys. And then Troon sends it on to the Treasury Department, they review it. The way it'll go tomorrow is I'll kind of tell the story on how we've gotten to the point where we've gotten. And then our architects will actually run through line item by line item, different things that we're proposing in the potential bond. They'll have a couple questions, we'll do a little cleanup language, our attorneys will be at the table as well. And then they'll certify that, we'll bring it back to you and ask you for a vote at the next meeting in June. And then we'll go from there.
Would that go directly for a vote, not for future?
That'll go right for action. Again, our percentages, our utilizations, all of that are well
Health, Safety, and Policy Committee, I think we should have our regular monthly meeting next week, but I'm not sure that we've had anything to cover. I think we're all caught up on the policies, so unless you guys disagree, we can probably skip the June meeting and the July meeting and then start up again in August when we're preparing for school.
And we postponed the finance committee meeting last Wednesday when the bargaining was taking place with the VA. I believe we've tentatively agreed on this coming Thursday night. Is that right? At 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
What's that?
Thursday at 6.
Thursday, yeah, this Thursday at 6 o'clock.
And are we meeting in Dr. Gray's office like we did last time?
Dr. Gray's office.
Finances in office, yes. Yep.
All right, anything else?
Well, the other thing I would just like to add is, I mean, this past weekend was yet another spectacular graduation ceremony for the amazing seniors that graduated from our district. And, you know, again, kudos to the administration and this park, and I mean, just and obviously everyone that's been involved in the preparation and planning for the graduation. And it's truly remarkable, you know, to see, you know, it all come together and the amazing talents that are on display, and, you know, the unique manner in which this district has chosen to conduct its graduation ceremonies. And it's pretty remarkable to hear people that may be there for the first time that are family or visitors, and they're amazed at how impressive it is because of the way that our graduation ceremonies are operated.
So let me jump on that real quick. I don't know if anybody knows, but I received my letter of retirement from Arnella Park today. So Arnella is retiring as of today, and she's going to be another big shoes to fill. It's been a lot of fun doing those with her for the last 10 years, and you know, she's done a lot for kids around here. And she would hate that I'm talking about her right now, but that's okay. She yells at me all the time. It's okay. But just another fantastic employee. I think she was third on the 37 years, third on the seniority list. So with Mr. Ritter and her, and the top of the seniority list is just it's going. But again, whatever you think, boy, did she put in a lot of hours and a lot of good for kids. So we're gonna miss her and wish her well and health in her retirement. And it'll look different, but it'll be Brighton area school, so we'll still do great things next year.
Is that the end of Bake Shop now?
No, Bake Shop will still be there. Yeah.
Because I like those cheese biscuits.
Yeah, Bake Shop will still be there.
Good.
Leadership will still be there. We're gonna have to, tweak that, in terms of what we're gonna do with that. But
Somebody has to organize homecoming too. Those are really big shoes.
homecoming, Pink Week, all those things. So
Yeah, big shoes to fill for sure.
yeah, she's done a great job there. And again, I just wish her the best of luck in retirement. And I'll miss her.
Just to say another thing about graduation, I think the way the handle of the two students that were lost was just very respectful and very nice and honor. That was
Yes.
very well done.
In true fashion, it seems like everyone, then to what, 5 now, always got those amazing talents. There's always a handful of them. You've got the amazing groups and the individuals, and then you always have those tear-jerking moments. It's like going to a great play or something that's amazing out there.
It's wrestling.
It was really good.
And there are 2 student representatives, Brooke and
Yep,
Gabby.
Brooke and Gabby.
Brooke was just
amazing speeches.
very, very impressive, so.
And Cora Mike killed it.
Oh my gosh.
That was- She was incredible.
Yeah.
And, she's going to the University of Cincinnati into the performing arts portion of that university. Her whole family is ridiculously talented. Whole family. Matter of fact, people don't know, but her dad played the keyboard though. We added him that morning because the kid that was supposed to play was ill. And so we say, you know these songs? Yeah, no problem. He jumped in and yeah, it was ridiculous. ridiculous. I wish I had a temper back then. But it was great. I appreciate that. And those guys worked really hard on that. We try to make it a really special moment for the crowd and the kids. And the 50-year graduates, our largest class of 50-year graduates we've ever had.
So is that everybody from?
No, it's not everybody. Now, we used to have about 12, and this year we had 62. So, you know, I think it's probably going to grow not only because of popularity of it, but the classes started to grow because Brighton started to expand a little bit as we moved along.
How many students are graduating 15 years ago?
You know, I think it was probably 100 or less. So to have 62% of that is a pretty good number.
Yeah.
I teased Arnella for the last week because her 50's next year. So I'm like, yeah, I need to get you your diploma. She's, I'm not coming back.
Or Miles.
Yeah, her Miles. Great to see you.
They were the same year?
I think so.
Yeah, it was. Yep. So, anyways, I don't think we'll see her again. I'll especially deliver that.
All right. Well, our next meeting will be Monday, June 24th at 7 p.m. Same location.
All right, so at this time, I would like to make a motion that we go into closed session. And just place my notes here. Bear with me. Yeah, I know. I didn't realize we were.
For your agenda.
We were up to that point up here. Here we go. All right. All right. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss a matter containing information exempt under federal law and MCL 15.268H as a continuation of the discussion regarding the level 3 grievance process.
Can we roll the other minutes into the same line? We gotta do them separate. Okay. All right. So moved by Mr. Myers, supported by Mr. Stahl, and roll call vote.
Dr. Krebs?
Yes.
Mr. Trombley?
Yep.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yeah.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes?
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
All right, we'll take a 2-minute recess.